Our first speaker today comes from the United Kingdom. He teaches 16 through 18-year-olds at the City of Westminster College in London. And he is a passionate advocate of teaching and learning through assessment and augmented through accessible use of technology. So I would like to welcome to the stage the fantastic Esam Baboukhan. Esam?
Hi, everyone. Hello. This is a story about my journey and the use of technology to empower my learners, helping to foster an inclusive environment where equality and diversity is promoted and celebrated, where everyone's voice is heard, even if you can't speak. This is a story about real impact and about the transformative power of technology to improve lives. My story with Student Voice more or less starts when I first applied for the MIE Expert Program in June 2017. Once accepted onto the program, I was then invited to the E2 Regional Conference at the Paddington offices, literally 5 minutes away from my college. And Paddington is probably one of the most culturally diverse areas in the whole of Europe. It was there Microsoft Teams had invited software engineers that have worked on Microsoft Teams to speak to fellow educators about Microsoft Teams and solicit feedback. I was impressed with Microsoft Teams, and I could see a lot of potential, especially in a professional context. But at the back of my mind, I couldn't really see a reason why I should introduce yet another tool in my teaching and learning toolkit. And I couldn't really see the benefits of it in a classroom environment. Embarrassingly so, at that point, I couldn't connect the dots. As it happened, I teach a class with a learner that has a hearing impairment called Kabir, and he is accompanied in class with a sign language interpreter. And unfortunately, I'm not well versed in British Sign Language to communicate with him directly, and I've always had to rely on the interpreter. And as far as I was aware, Kabir had really never communicated with the rest of his classmates. So I go back to college, my lovely college, City of Westminster College, and I reflect on the E2 Regional Conference, and I contemplate. And then I had a eureka moment. I finally managed to connect the dots. Microsoft Teams could be the solution I use to break down the barriers in communicating with Kabir. So excited by this idea, I rushed back to class to introduce Microsoft Teams. But before doing so, I established a few ground rules with the learners. And I told them that with great power comes great responsibility, something you've probably heard of before. Treat people the way you want to be treated. And I also reminded them of the consequences of breaking college policy. Now, with the protocols established, I set out to introduce Teams to the class. The moment I introduced Teams was one of the most memorable teaching moments in my life. As you can imagine, there was an eruption of joy and excitement, and I stood back in fascination watching this, but with my eyes and focus fixated on Kabir. Watching his body language and his face lit up, it was really a special moment, because in that instance, it was for the first time he communicated with his classmates, and his classmates communicated with him. And in that instance, I realized the transformative power of technology to transform and improve lives. And I know this may sound like a cliche, but it really felt like a magical moment. Sometimes as teachers, we're asked about impact. And in that moment that Teams was introduced to the class, there was immediate real and tangible impact that would transform the teaching and learning experience of all my learners. I want to share with you a quote that I think captures the moment Teams was introduced. And this is Kabir's classmate. His name is Jasper. He's one of our brilliant digital ambassadors. And I'm going to read this word by word. My classmate with hearing problems messaged me after a day that Teams was introduced, and we were discussing on how we can make improvements on our assignments, which was the first time I ever talked to him. Imagine that. Teams has given me the opportunity to make a friend even without talking in person. Thank you. Yeah, it is incredible. It really was magic. So, what impact has it had on the rest of the class and on teaching and learning? I'm sure as teachers, you would agree, it is quite a challenge to be able to provide one-to-one support for all our learners. Now, students are able to access one-to-one support at the drop of the hat. Even the most passive learners are able to lurk and learn. I've become much more accessible as a teacher, and I'm able to respond to questions and queries at any time, anywhere, and on any device. As teachers, we don't get enough contact time to deliver the content. And with Teams, it's augmented teaching and learning, extending and enhancing learning in and out of the classroom. So, as you would expect, students have started to communicate with each other about work. They share class notes, talk about deadlines, etc. You have to also appreciate I'm not their tutor. I'm just a subject teacher. And I probably know more about their circumstances than their tutors because I use Teams with them. They've also started confiding in me, telling me their issues affecting their deadline submissions, attendance and punctuality. And I'm going to share with you one quote that I think is quite amusing. And these messages get more creative as deadline submissions approach. Yes. So I'll read this one out. I won't be in Esam's lesson today. My key broke and I'm stuck inside my house until someone comes to open the door for me. And I've got literally hundreds and hundreds of these types of messages. I don't know what I've done. Okay. I can tell you without a doubt, this would not have happened through email. It's a much more natural, real-time way of communicating, and it doesn't carry the official burden and protocols associated with email. It's easy and light. So, where are we with Teams? Believe it or not, I have a teacher called Nora, an A-levels English teacher, and she experimented with Teams with her learners. And then they gave her last week a thank you card saying goodbye to her and thank you for all the work. And on the card, it said Teams Forever. That's how much they liked it. So I thought, I'd put that as the title of the slide. So what are we doing with Teams now? From originally not connecting the dots, we use Teams for a variety of reasons and ways. For example, we have English and maths teams, and we have over 1,000 students in those teams. We have literally dozens of screencasts, video tutorials of teachers going over past exam papers that we host on streams. We've got also teaching and learning teams, and we put all the teachers in this team because previously we didn't have the space and time to collaborate and have that professional dialogue. Now we're able to share resources and share good practice. We also have something really interesting. We've got a flip grid called Learner's Voice, and we get students to give feedback to teachers on how they can improve teaching and learning, and that's worked really well. And professional communication collaboration, what do I mean by that? every so often, I go to other colleges and I get to know some fantastic and inspiring teachers. And what we do, in order to carry on with this communication collaboration, we set teams so we can carry on that dialogue. From September, we'll be creating parent teams, so tutors can have that online ongoing dialogue with parents, because as the research says, if the parents are involved with their child's education, success will go up, and so will punctuality and attendance. So we're going to try this out come September. Thank you. Thank you, very kind. The teacher is the most important learner. So, what takeaways and what advice would I give you? If you haven't done so, I really would recommend everyone in the audience and those watching online to become an MIE expert program. Thank you. I became an MIE expert June 2017, and it's only been 12 months. And it's been an amazing journey. The amount of opportunities that have arisen because of this program is just incredible. And I've also connected to a community full of passionate and inspiring educators that I could seek support and help. Honestly, they all deserve a round of applause. They really do. I also would encourage everyone to experiment, fail, and innovate. And what do I mean by that? Experiment with new ideas. And don't worry about failing, because failure is a part of innovation. Take risks. With failure comes opportunity for growth. And if you're overwhelmed with all of these tools, someone told me, really bizarre question, by the way, how do you eat an elephant? Huh? There you go, one bite at a time. So what I'm trying to say is, if you've got a mammoth task, break it down into small steps. Just experiment, okay? And then finally, just like me, I couldn't originally connect the dots, but by experimenting, you innovate. And as teachers, we need to stay fresh and dynamic and engage our learners. And finally, as it is our duty as educators, it is our duty as educators to listen to the student's voice, even if they can't, don't, or won't speak, because everyone has a voice and everyone deserves to be heard. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Esam. I am so amazed, and I have to say,
thank you very much. Thank you.
The online chat room was blowing up. The online chat room was blowing up, and you talked a little bit about your next step being getting parents in there.
Absolutely, we're really excited.
And what's one other next step you guys have?
The next step? To broadcast when it comes to exam time. So when students are at home, they can access broadcasts from teachers so they can prepare for the exams. And I'm really confident that the success rates will go up.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks. Let's give it one more great round of applause for Esam. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Awesome, you guys.